I've only got one thing on my mind for today's video, and that is the recent announcement from VanEck. Are they going to be the new sugar daddy of the Bitcoin developers? And what does the implications of this actually look like? A lot of people are right off the bat getting very excited for this, for VanEck to be so pro Bitcoin, but there's some really important details that we all need to pay attention to if you really care about the future development of Bitcoin. Welcome to Crypto Tips. My name is Heidi. If you enjoy these updates, hit the like button and hit subscribe. Today is not exactly my favorite video to be making, but they are important nonetheless. Let's dive right into it. VanEck has proposed to make a donation of 5% of all of their ETF profits for the next 10 years to be donated towards Bitcoin development and the Bitcoin developers. Additionally, they have already given $10,000 towards Bitcoin development, but they do mention this in their tweet. They say, if approved. So does it still have to be approved by their board of directors, or does it have to be approved by the SEC? Right now, this is just a promise, so we'll see if this can even come to fruition. If it does come to fruition, what do you think 5% of their profits look like? And how does that compare to the current funding of Bitcoin core developers? It's also important to note that there is no Bitcoin Foundation. There are no direct employees of Bitcoin. The developers are often volunteers doing so freely of their own accord. And if they do so enough and they're making enough effort towards developing Bitcoin, they might be searching out for sponsors of their own independently, or they might receive funding from other Bitcoin-centric businesses as a form of payment as well. Now listen, do not misunderstand me. I absolutely believe that these Bitcoin developers should be paid, and I hope that they get paid handsomely. But most people are applauding of this new move or announcement from VanEck. In fact, a lot of people are saying, you know what, I'm going to invest in your ETF just because of your altruism towards Bitcoin core development. And to that I say, what a great strategic move. Roping in those who still believe that these big banks are looking out for the little guy. You guys have to know better than this by now. They don't do anything by accident, especially when promising 5% of their profits. And I gotta ask you, and I hope that you leave your comments down below, what does it look like when institutions start influencing how Bitcoin is developed? What kind of bureaucracy and special interests will VanEck try to influence Bitcoin to address in the future? Right off the bat, off the top of my head, I'm thinking ESG narratives, regulatory compliance, and privacy invasion. These are all things that Bitcoin could possibly be sacrificing in the future somehow if VanEck has enough money to throw at them to develop tools that would allow this to occur. In fact, we have to ask also, is this enough money for there to be a push for Bitcoin to actually switch from proof of work to proof of stake? If you want to know my true thoughts on that possibility ever happening, I did a video on this on August 1st last year, about 5 months ago. Go ahead and I'll put a link to it in the video description as well if you want to know how I think about the possibility of Bitcoin switching from proof of work to proof of stake. So you got to think 5% of the VanEck ETF profits, if approved, how does that compare to the current funding model of the Bitcoin core developers? In fact, who is funding them? Well, right off the bat, here's the info from a couple years ago. There's not a lot of like super up-to-date information on this, but we see Brink, also independent donations for the Bitcoin developers ranking second. Also, we have MIT, Chaincode, BitMEX, Square, OKCoin, Coinbase, Revolt, and Blockstream. I was kind of surprised that Blockstream ranked so low on this list. They're always kind of in my impression of like the main funding of Bitcoin developers. Also, if you guys want to see some of the specific Bitcoin developers that are public with their names and the number of commits that they've submitted to the Bitcoin Core Code, we see BitPay, Cyphex, Chaincode Labs have all done their work in funding Bitcoin developers. Blockstream, Hardcore Fund, OKCoin, Binance, Blockchain, BTCC, Bitcoin Foundation, Zappo, and Digital Garage. These are all developers that have done a lot of work towards helping Bitcoin, and they're probably going to be some of the same people that are receiving this donation from VanEck. And speaking of Blockstream, they do have some interesting contracts for those that they have actively employed to be working on the Bitcoin core code. They say as part of their contracts, all Blockstream developers also have time-locked Bitcoins to ensure they are incentivized to work towards Bitcoin success. These contracts also include so-called morality clauses. If Blockstream asks any of them to work against what they consider to be in Bitcoin's best interest, they can refuse to do so while still guaranteed a salary. It also begs the question, I know VanEck is labeling this as a donation, but will it somehow also come with a certain contract that these recipients of this donation are going to have to agree to? Will the public know what is in those contracts? And will they have some kind of morality clause included to grant these Bitcoin core developers autonomy and the ability to still be funded by them, but still push Bitcoins towards the direction that they believe is right? Furthermore, if this idea of VanEck takes off, and how many there's over 10, I think, other ETF applications. If this idea takes off from VanEck, how many others are also going to be offering to be the new sugar daddy of the Bitcoin core developers? And how many developers are willing to sacrifice what they believe is right for Bitcoin in exchange for a huge paycheck? I hope that they're very in tune with the cypherpunk ideals, and they will continue to work towards the good of the little guy and not succumb to the greed of the institutions. Like I said, this is not my favorite video to do, but it is really important to understand what is now at stake as these institutional investors are becoming more and more entrenched in this Bitcoin community. Whether we like it or not, it's coming. We got to keep our eyes out for it. And thank goodness that Bitcoin is open source and there's so much other things being built in cryptocurrency economy. If for some reason this does turn out bad, you guys, this is a free market. You are free to move your money wherever you like. This is not FUD. I'm not trying to make you panic that Bitcoin's going down or anything, but just remember, this is all a huge experiment and we need to stay nimble and flexible in our minds as well. If you want to know what Toby and I are doing with our cryptocurrencies, you got to check out the home to the CT Club at learningcrypto.com. That's it for now. I'll see you later.